We've got Connor. Pronouns are he, him from Utah. Animal rights are an extension of human rights and would like our opinions on that. Hey, Connor, you're on with John and Drew. How's it going?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. Yeah, I was just, just wondering, like, you guys' opinions about the idea of, like, animal rights and how, like, for me, like, I feel that there's either a misconception or, like, more of an invitation for people to, like, consider animal rights. Like, there is, of course, human rights, but, like, knowing, like, how there should be, like, a continued effort for animal rights too.
Right. I'm going through some stuff right now when it comes to animal rights and eating animals. An internal conflict where I'm slowly starting to move away from wanting to eat animals and trying to find another way to get all the nutrients that I need. So I'm with you, but I tell you what, I am struggling with getting there. Since moving to the USA, developed a very annoying allergy. I'm allergic to soy, and soy, when you're on a plant-based diet, is quite abundant, I found. So I'm struggling with that, but I am kind of with you, Connor, and I think there is still a lot of humans almost seem like we're the dominant species and we get to eat all these things, and I don't necessarily agree with that. But I mean, there are certain species of animals that I sort of lean more towards having a bit of like a protection need for, if that makes sense. I don't know about you, Drew.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. And Connor, I really appreciate the call because I think it's an important conversation that is not always often had. And, I hear about this a lot. So I kind of tend to spend a lot of time within humanist circles. And there was one variety of humanism that oftentimes is kind of maybe misconstrued as a core humanist tenet. And that's this idea that like humans are above and beyond all other species and puts humans as supreme. Most humanists today do not believe anything of the sorts. And it's more just living a healthier humanity, building a better world. And as the species that fucked up so much of the world, taking responsibility for that in building that better world and focusing on the human in humanism, because, well, that's us, right? Like, how can we live life without living it through our lens, which makes it inherently focused on being human. So that's why I still like the terminology humanist and the movement humanism. That said, I don't want it to sound like I'm digressing, because one of the criticisms of humanism is a whole other movement called sentientism. Maybe by chance you're familiar with this, heard of this. And the idea there is kind of almost doing everything humanists do, but just shifting it a little wider and saying, listen, we don't just care about humans and humanity's ability to thrive, but we care about all sentient beings. And I think there's a lot of benefit in expanding that conversation. It doesn't flow off the tongue. I think the branding suffers a little bit with sentientism versus humanism. It's just like, what, huh? For a lot of people, which for anyone not aware, I mean, sentientism or sentient beings are those beings who are able to feel pain, may or may not have some level of consciousness, but feel pain, right? And so, but then we can ask, Connor, maybe the concern is even beyond just sentient beings to all humanity, right? And so, or I'm sorry, not all humanity, all beings, right? I think these are good questions. I'll be honest, I don't have any easy answers. I have dabbled in veganism for a long while. I was pushing kind of hard to try and incrementally become more and more vegan. I think where I'm at right now, and I by no means claim that this is the best way to do it, but it's kind of where I'm landing, is trying to practice more where I'm trying to exercise mindfulness and graciousness towards the sacrifice that other members, and when I say members, I'm just talking about other beings, other animals and beings around, a part of the earth, acknowledging their sacrifice within that cycle that I will eventually die and feed into myself. And so that's more where I'm at. Again, I don't claim that that's the best way, and I certainly might not land there long term, but it's where I'm at now, if that's helpful.
And Connor, where are you? I mean, I feel like you probably wouldn't have called if you weren't at least vegetarian or exploring veganism. But how do you feel about it?
Well, this is my first time calling, so I'm a little shaky. So if I talk kind of,
we're very gentle. We're very gentle here.
Okay, thank you. Well, for me, I've experienced a huge transition for me because, like, I go to a class. It's about animal philosophy, and it's really tackling with notions of like, how do we come about in our human mindset of interactions with other sentient beings. Like, for me, I've drastically changed my diet in a lot of ways. I've not eaten eggs currently or milk. I've been drinking soy milk instead. And I think, even if you guys have said that like you've tackled how to be vegan or vegetarian, like I think it's a continual process, not just like I made it, but it's more like always evolving into a better you, and striving for that.
Yeah, I think that's important as well. And I'm one of those that if something is naturally produced by an animal, I don't see as much of a problem with eating what's being produced, as long as it's, again, done in like a humane, cared for way. Absolutely fine. But if battery hens, for example, they're not treated very well, I do not want to encourage that, so I won't purchase eggs from battery farms. Or I actually stopped eating beef 7 or 8 years ago because I didn't agree with beef farming. So I was like, okay, what can I do to slowly transition out of this? And that was one of the things I worked on. I kind of feel like, as long as animals are being cared for in the correct way, what they produce, we could probably, I'm okay personally with ingesting. But if animals are treated terribly, I don't want to encourage that in any way. I do not want to keep pushing that and give people a reason to treat animals that way. And we know fully well that when animals get hurt, they let out, they feel pain. They let out. If I've accidentally stood on my dog several times, because she's always just there, and she yelps when I accidentally tread on her tail or something, we know that they feel pain. So I feel like I'm desperately trying to do it, Connor. Honestly, I'm trying to step away from eating the meats. It's going to be a slow process for me because of my allergies, but I feel like you're doing the right thing by saying, animals have feelings, and maybe we should think about how we ingest them, or if we ingest them at all, or what we take from them. So I think you've got a good message there, Connor. I'm all for it.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And anything you're curious about that you want to discuss a little further along this line?
Maybe like I have a hard time with, I think that it goes along with animal rights too, like the idea of like animal experimentation, like for like scientific purposes, and I struggle with that because
Are you still there, Connor? Did we lose you?
Uh-oh.
Oh no, I hope we didn't. I was going somewhere and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we. Oh, there we are. Hello.
He's back
again. He's back again. Don't leave us, Connor.
Oh, sorry. I don't know. My reception may be a little bit off, but yeah. Did you hear what I guys said?
Say it again, just so we can make sure.
Okay. Just to repeat, I right now I'm having very struggling with the idea of animal experimentation, like specifically like in scientific terms, because sure there is like some implications to like helping humans to like maybe for certain diseases or some cures, but recently, like I found out that like there's been alternative ways of not using animal experimentation, like for instance, like I think it was like called like something like a human lung, like like some type of replica of the human
Right.
lung, so that we can like test things out. So yeah, I wonder what you guys think about that.
Where do we draw the line on what we test on animals? Because I mean, for the betterment of the human species, looking at ways to treat diseases and treat ailments that we struggle with as a species, maybe. But testing for how a hairspray holds your hair and what lipstick looks like, I'm definitely very against that. It is a very fine line, because how else would we? I mean, other than testing on ourselves, obviously, how else would we find ways of treating all of these issues that the human race suffers with? I do think, if people are happy to be tested on, go for it. That'd be great. But there aren't many people that would do that. And so what is the next best option? And unfortunately, it does seem like that using creatures that have similar DNA sequences to what they're treating for is the only way to do it. But I mean, what do you reckon, Drew? It's a tough one.
Yeah, it is. And I think this is another one of these things where, at least I would suggest, there's no clear and obvious answer in some of this. But I mean, to some degree, it almost comes down to what's the scenario called with the train tracks, right? Where you flip back and forth, and right. So on the one hand, I'm tempted to say that, okay, if like in terms of cancer research, okay, and I profess my ignorance. I don't know exactly all the different ways that animals are used in testing, but I'm assuming it's pretty pervasive, okay, in like everything is my assumption. And so if it's something that is more serious, like you said, John, not hairspray, testing the hold of hairspray, but something like cancer research, right? If there's applications there, my mind jumps to, okay, if the choice is never testing any cancer research on an animal or something similar to cancer research on an animal and continuing to let humanity die of cancer, or if it's, I'm tempted to use the word sacrificing. I don't know if that's the best way. They're not choosing to do it to sacrifice themselves, but if it's using some animals in order to potentially eradicate cancer from humans, I don't know, but that's the train track thing, right? But I'm the one pulling the switch on those animals. And so that's what then gives me voice to the other side saying, right, but is that our place to make that choice because they're not choosing it themselves? So it's tough. And here's where I would suggest there are no easy answers. I know some from either side would say, yes, the easy answer is mine. And I don't fault those that do find easy answers. I can't say it for myself. I see a variety of sides, but I do lean towards really taking seriously and prioritizing animal welfare and the fact that they do have sentience, that they do experience sensation and feeling and pain, and respecting that and looking for a way to minimize it while also seeking to minimize human suffering. And I do kind of feel like any species, when put to the test, is going to prioritize their own species. Now, we have unbelievable strength, and so we have a responsibility, an ethical responsibility, to keep our strength in check, even in defending ourselves. Nonetheless, I do think it's kind of natural that we would lean towards our own species. And so yeah, again, I don't know. And so Connor, I'd love to hear your thoughts in response to us, and feel free to disagree. Of course, I want to hear the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In some aspects, I've learned a lot about how, in a evolutionary perspective, like I think like maybe 7 million years ago or so, that like we were just evolving from I think like Australopithecus. I can't say it right,
Australopithecus.
but that we used to, yeah, and basically it's like knowing, like in our own evolutionary perspective, we were once vulnerable to other animals, and like maybe in that aspect, and maybe seeing that we can know that we have been vulnerable in those times, and knowing that in a way we are still vulnerable for ourselves today, because we want to like fix all the ailments, or like want to like cure, as you mentioned, cure different cancers.
Mm-hmm.
And I disagree, and knowing that I disagree, knowing that it might come to some sort of like in the utilitarianism, like the greater good for the greatest number of people. It makes it seem like we have to quote sacrifice some animals for some people that are going through a horrific pain, especially in the human terms.
And it's not easy. I mean, if anybody extremely close to me started suffering with something like cancer, and the only way for them to be cured was for me to be tested on, I would absolutely do it in place of an animal, you know. And I think a lot of people would stand there, but we just don't have that means right now. And so it does look like, unfortunately, we do have to stick with some form of testing on animals. And do I agree with it? Probably not, but for now, that is all we have. So just to jump on the back of that.
All right.
I mean, that was a great call, and I think we covered a lot of stuff there, Connor. So I appreciate you calling in with all that.
Yeah, like that is a lot of stuff in just like in a few minutes.
But that's what we're here for. This is exactly the kind of thing we want to hear about.